All right, hello everyone. I'm just going to be going over the basics of kind of like implementing the models, resizing them, changing the pivot, fracturing them into geometry collections, and then how to apply your own textures and potentially even create your own building blueprints. I'm re-recording this, so if I sound it's because I'm re-recording it. So let's say you got this thing. You want to turn this into a geometry collection. Or first, let's resize it first. So go up here to selection mode. This is your base mode and Unreal. You want to go down to modeling mode. This allows you to change like a lot of different aspects of the models, but we're going to be primarily focusing on the transform section. So currently right now, I have the boardwalk set to 20 by 20. If we set it to 1, go small. But if we put it up to back up to 20, this is probably a decent size that we would actually use. We want to keep this decent size across all other boardwalks. So what we will do is we will bake the RS. This will bake the transforms into the static mesh. So the static mesh's base size is now 20 by 20. So that is considered 1 in Unreal terms. In Unreal scaling terms. You can also change the pivot of an object. The pivot right here is fine. Normally what you want to do is just hit bottom. But you can drag this around to move the pivot to wherever you want. So let's just say we want the most god-awful pivot imaginable. Just like, that's not terrible, but like, my mouse is weird. So you can just have it right here. It's on the outside. You don't like that. Some of the models are like that. So go over here, click pivot, bottom. This will center it, basically center it and lower it to the bottom edge of the model. Hit accept, and now it's a lot easier to just move around and everything. Also, I'm pretty sure you have to bake the transform of it as well. Just click accept. That'll just make sure that everything is proper within it, and it will be consistent across all other boardwalk models, static meshes. Now, we want to fracture it, so go back up to where you got selection mode for modeling. Right below it is fracturing. Fracturing is what turns things into geometry collections. You want to make sure that you have the model that you want to fracture selected. Go up to here, hit new, go down here, naming convention, GC, and then the name of the object, so boardwalk. Make sure it's in the chaos destruction folder. There's already a boardwalk, so we'll hit just 1 for just example's sake. Hit create geometry collection. Now, normally what I stick with is cluster, just because cluster has a bit more randomness to it. You want to make sure that whenever you fracture it, there isn't a lot of them. Like normally for smaller models, aim for around 10, 15, 20 max on the initial cluster. On bigger models, 25 to 35 on the initial cluster. So if I hit cluster right here, 379 is not good. Now this model is really big for a number of reasons, so it's a bit of a bad example. So we'll just go over here quickly to discuss it. So, all right, we need to create another GC test. Woo. All right, so let's just say you want to cluster it. Don't change anything. 28 is not actually bad, especially considering what we had. And now, so that's what you want for level 1. For level 2, these will be the pieces that whenever they collide with something, such as the newt, the ground, other buildings, it will break off into further pieces. You can hit fracture. And 187 looks really cool. However, it's a lot of stuff for the engine to calculate. So just hit Control Z. We're going to go back up here, hit 2, maybe 4 in the max number of clusters. Put max sites per cluster down to around 8 is what I normally go for. Go down to here, hit fracture. And 71 is perhaps a little bit large, but for a building this big in comparison to other buildings, it'll make the destruction a lot more satisfying. So we'll just keep it for now, but just remember, I would say never go above 100 pieces and only really do 70 and like 28 base on level 1 and 70 on like level 2 if the building is big and large, and it's like whenever the player destroys it, you really want them to feel that destruction. Other things to note are like this tower, the Ferris wheel, etc. So, now that you have this all proper done, that's how you do everything. Let's go back over to here. What was the issue with this thing? I can't comment exactly on how the issue pops up, but essentially individual pieces of the geometry collection, whether it's like they're not connected by faces, edges, vertices, or whatever, they separate into individual portions that seems to be unavoidable to my testing whenever you initially fracture it. Thus, instead of getting around 10 to 15 pieces, you get 327. That will lag our game into infinity. Normally what you want to do is you can select individual bones and pieces and hit this button over here, Geometry Merge. It's abbreviated, but GeoMerge. Hit GeoMerge, and now it combines all those pieces to stick together and treats it as one mesh and treats the collision as one thing, rather than like a bajillion different pieces. With 319, I'm not expecting you to go through all of these. I would maybe potentially seek down the person who made this and just be like, hey, do you know a way that you can make this without this happening? But like, you might be able to group select, but that raises some own issues to where connected pieces could be like on this side, and there's connected piece on that side, and then there's like floating pieces tumbling around everywhere. This is not ideal. If it's only a couple of pieces, it's a lot more manageable. Like I've done that for the lighthouse, the casino sign, and Thursday's example tutorial thing that I did in presentation. But I won't expect you to do it for like over 300 pieces. That's just tedious and annoying. We might just make this a solid static thing just to avoid that work, because that will be work that can be better spent elsewhere. A few other notes. There can be issues such as there's just this spike jutting out. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but if you look into it, yeah, like it's not, that will be an issue there. If the spikes are kind of like jutting, outwards and upwards, I would say find a way to remove it. But whenever they're like this will be hidden underneath the ground, so you won't have to worry about it much. You may be able to do some fancy stuff, like if you really want just individual slices, you can select the geometry collection, like select the individual bone like I have right now, so whatever's checkerboarded. You can go over here to planar, grab this, put it down to here. Let's just say I want to get rid of as much of this spike as possible. So have it selected, planar, hit fracture on the planar, and now we've kind of, oh god, what the fuck? We've perhaps made it worse. I'm just going to hit, where is it? There's a button called prune. There it is, prune right here in edit. So that didn't exactly get rid of the thing that we were trying to get rid of. So, because there's potentially another, because that's also connected to that. So the chaos destruction system, it's in the name, it's a little bit funky. So as long as the pieces aren't jutting out, they're just jutting down, it will be fine. You can just remake it over and over again until you kind of get like one that probably looks good enough. I'll just take this. I'll just redo. I'm not really going to use this geometry collection because I already have one. But yeah, so this is fine. Also, the different colors doesn't remove the thing. Just go over here, type bone and details, unclick that, and it returns to normal. It's just so you can see the individual bones with like colors rather than just like trying to see it in blank white static mesh. So let's say you want to create your own building. And we're also going to show you how to apply textures. Go over to blueprints. You want to make sure that you do this stuff in the levels branch. Well, actually, if you're creating your own stuff, do it in the artist branch because you'll probably be in there. But if you want to apply textures to an already existing building blueprint, please do it in levels. You'll give me a massive headache if you do it in art branch because you'll probably be causing a lot of overwrites. David will have to remove that and like the merge thing. It'll be a whole mess. So just remember, if you're doing anything in relation to levels or editing already existing building blueprints, do it in levels. So going into here, this is just an example leftover thing I had. You want to just change the name to BP and then whatever the name of the thing is. Let's just say test. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm lazy. And we'll start with the geometry collection. because this determines the outward appearance of the building. So go down to here. It was test. As you can see, we have all of our goofy pieces jutting out like this, but as you can see, it actually looks pretty nice with this texture. But currently right now, its collision is determined by the static mesh component. And right now the static mesh component is this smaller bank thing, and it's not going to cover the whole thing. Just go to here. We'll go to Hotel Casino because that's the base mesh. Click the OK. And now the collision for the building will enrapture the whole geometry collection. Now you just want to, last thing you want to maybe do is apply the source material. So down here, source materials, what actually changes it on here, it's something to do with like settings and blueprints and yada, yada, yada. I don't understand it half myself. So let's say we wanted to change this nice, decent looking stone texture into something stupid. Let's do pink. Source material here. This determines the inside of the building. So if you're looking here, it looks like fucking ice cream. Fucking Jeremiah's frozen Italian ice or whatever. And if we want that on the outside, we want to hit source material 0, then do veggie. That's called veggie for some reason. Got this beautiful, wonderful... this looks terrible. But you'll essentially get it looking like this. And so basically, if you want to change the source material of the building blueprint, you have to make sure to do it in the blueprint and change the source material. That will change the outward appearance. We'll just change it back to stone because I think that's the proper thing. So instance, and there you go. Looks all nice and dandy. If we have you making building blueprints in the future, there's stuff like the monetary value, the health, the destruction sound effects, etc. But you won't be handling much of that, at least at this current moment. So yeah, that's how you rescale and repivot a static mesh. That's how you fracture it into a lot of different pieces. If you have like loose pieces in there, you can connect them with GeoMerge or you can prune them away. You want to make sure that on the first level of small buildings, 10 to 15, first level of large buildings, maybe like 25, 30, second level, thing like 25, 30 for the second level for small buildings. And then for large buildings, level 2, have it be like 50, 60, upwards of 70, but don't pass 100. Because up there, that's just like excessive. And then if you want to create your own building blueprint, just copy any existing building blueprint. Go into here, just make sure that you change the static mesh and the geometry collection components so that both of them match, so the appearance and the collision match. And then up here, just make sure you change both of the source materials to the base thing. We might change in the future to have some sort of rubble texture on the inside, so it looks even like cooler. Ooh. But for now, just change both of them to be like this. But yeah, if you have any further questions, let me know. But that should cover about everything that you would need to know. I will talk with y'all later in class or whatever. Bye-bye.